have an amazing panel of speakers here. So I don't want to waste any time. I want to get straight into this. We're going to be talking about the leadership and the future of work, extraordinarily relevant in 2020. What I'm going to do before we start, I would just say, everybody who's watching this session, there is a little Q&A button to the right-hand side of the viewing screen. Please use that, and I'm going to ask Fad to drop in the questions as we go so we can try and integrate some of those into the conversation. We want this to be a nice, open, flowing conversation. What I will ask to do is I'm going to come round to the panelists one by one. I'd ask you to briefly introduce yourself and share your biggest challenge or change to leadership from 2020 so far. So without further ado, Harry, let's start with you, please. Introduce yourself and biggest challenge or change in leadership for 2020 so far.
Thank you, Andy. Hi, friends. My name is Hari. I run the collaboration business for Cisco in Asia Pacific, Japan, and China. I'm based in Singapore. Andy, 2020 will be a defining year in a lot of our careers. A lot of us were around, at least some of us were around when the previous epidemic happened through SARS, but the effect was very limited, right? I mean, this has touched our lives in so many ways, both at work and personally. So look, one is we've got all our employees to work safely from home, and obviously our customers and our partners have done that. And we're getting very encouraging feedback that they're productive, that they're using their personal time in a good way. But again, you have this feedback also when you talk to employees that their personal and office hours are getting mixed up because there is just no balance. You don't know how and where to draw a line. So obviously, apart from living healthily, physically, mental wellness is a key criteria for us. There is a lot of stuff that we're doing as a company, and we're seeing a lot of our peer companies and our customers are going overboard on mental wellness. The more we do is better for everybody. Obviously, sitting in a study room with very minimal social interaction is not going to be easy, right? So that's one of the things that we've seen as a big change.
Absolutely, thank you so much. And it's it's interesting to see all the panelists split between home and offices here. So so great perspectives to come. So Bill, if you would like to introduce yourself and share your thought, please.
Thanks, Andy. So I'm Bill Zeng. I'm the CTO and Senior SE Director for Poly in Asia-Pac region. What I've seen really is the biggest change is that hybrid working has proven to work, right? We're all forced into it. I think before COVID-19, I was traveling 80% of the time to see my team all around in Asia-Pac, meeting the customer, meeting the partners. We thought that would be the best way to do that. And that has been working, by the way, for many years. And when we start to turn everything to virtual, to manage the team, to manage the business, as well as seeing the customer, seeing the partner, it's like, is it really going to work, right? Is it going to work effectively? The result, I think, seen and has been working quite well from my point of view. We are able to manage the team extremely well. We see huge growth in our headset business. And on top of that, I think the partner and the customers are responding very well to this hybrid working. So I'm very positive about the future. And I think that this proving to be, I think, next normal. And even COVID-19 goes away, I think a lot of things are going to change in the future.
Fantastic, thank you, and welcome. And Javed, over to you. You work in a very specific industry. Have you seen that same shift to hybrid working? Is it possible? Is it positive?
Yeah, hi everybody. Hi Andy. Yeah, so I take care of about 6 airlines for AirAsia. Operationally, we used to have 1,500 flights a day, and we would carry in excess of 150,000 guests every single day. We're now doing 450 flights a day. 240 aircraft, and I've got 45 aircraft flying right now. So a huge shift. And we don't do things virtually. You know, you get on a plane, you sit on a plane, you come to an airport and you take off. Our world has gone 360 degrees. And we're trying to figure out what that means now. However, for a company as AirAsia, our workforce all came to an airport. Pilots got on a plane and flew. Cabin crew came in the cabin and served you. Check-in agents came in and checked you in. We've had to really reinvent what that means. We've got the office-based staff all working from home, and they love it. And I think that's great. I question why I've got a big corporate office with 3,000, 4,000 seats in it now. but we're able to operate the airline from home. But we can only do so much. We've still got to have engineers, we've still got to have pilots, and still got to have cabin crew. So we're split in the way that how we will operate. But we're driven by borders opening. Our business is regulated, is controlled, but we're ready to go. We've digitized the entire customer experience, but we can only make it work when borders can open. And that's what we're sitting waiting for now.
Absolutely, major challenges. Thanks, Javed. And James, I think let's bring you in here, because obviously, as a company, you operate a number of brands, and I guess have manufacturing as part of that. If you could share, kind of, have you found similar kind of challenges, or is it a different situation for you?
Absolutely, we're running a hybrid model, because obviously at Fine Hygienic Holding, and I'm based out of Dubai, but we're across 75 countries, and we're manufacturing product that is essential. It's masks and gloves, PPE, as well as sterilized tissues and diapers. So even through the lockdowns, we were considered an essential product, and we were asked by governments across the world to work and to produce. So I've got half my organization working every day, and it's been dramatic amounts of care taken to keep everyone healthy and keep everyone safe, and constant sterilization of facilities. We're 100% masking. And we've been masked since February 1. We were masking up when the WHO and other people were saying you don't need a mask. So, we were being very cautious from the beginning. And then most of my administration is we're 100% work from home option, with you can go into the office 1 day a week. And the biggest challenge has been basically we have a wonderful sense of family and community, in keeping that alive. People still need to see each other. So it's been a blend for me of writing to my organization every day, doing virtual events every week where people can see me, and then the occasional, with conditions and with restrictions, getting together physically, with social distancing, so that people can keep that human connection. I mean, it's just like a marriage. You can't run a marriage 100% virtually. I mean, eventually at some point you need to see your spouse. And so it's the same concept. People do need to still have the physical connection and see people and be a part of it. You can't do everything virtually. So it's finding that sweet spot.
Fantastic, thank you. And I'm going to bring this across to you now, Philip, because obviously talking about seeing your spouse, a lot of people will have spent time with their spouses interacting with the brand you work for over recent months. And as a completely digital first brand, have you seen kind of physical and digital workplace challenges, or have you seen a complete shift?
Look, the Netflix culture has always been a flexible culture. So essentially the ability to work from home, the ability to work from anywhere, it's kind of always been a part of that culture. So for people to shift from a working home environment wasn't a significant move for a lot of people. It wasn't a big shock. The one thing that we do focus on at the moment is things like all of our suppliers and our partners that are currently in the market that could be struggling. We're working with them to keep them alive and keep them going, especially when it comes to the people that support our productions, both on-site and off-site and through studios. So supporting that network that we have that's supporting us as a business. From a people point of view, we catch up on every second day as a group and as a team, and it is essentially for us, you don't have to turn up. It's just basically a session where if you just need to talk to somebody and keep sane, that's absolutely fine. And that's just within my team. Regionally, as an organization, where we can, we have our offices open, and that's more to support our staff from a mental health point of view. If they don't have the right connectivity, if they don't have the right environment to work in, or they just need to get out of the environment that they're currently in, we have a safe workspace for them to go into, and at the moment in the offices we can open and can function from. Although the numbers are still incredibly quite low, we're slowly starting to see those move up as people both want to get back to a routine, but also at the same time, move away from the family and the noise in the background and start to focus on their core responsibilities. And yes, definitely, we're hearing a lot of good comments about people interacting with our product at this time. It seems to be very popular.
Fantastic. That's good to hear. I'm hearing the words balance and connection and hybrid coming up a lot. So let's bring you in here. Obviously, you work in, you'll introduce yourself, but you work in a heavily regulated area where quite often in location has had to be a thing. What have you found during recent times, and has there been a shift in leadership around that?
Affairs of ICMA Pakistan, Institute of Cost and Management Accountants of Pakistan. So we are in the business of providing education and examination, which is the main operation, and it is also affected with this COVID, and we are redefining the operations, how we have to give the education online and the examination, how we can test the people. So we are redefining all such things, and successfully within last 3-4 months we learned a lot, and now we are given a lot of solutions to our students and members, and shift on a technology based solutions from our institute. So altogether there is a change, and we are redefining the things, and priorities have been changed, and now we are of the opinion that instead of now physical infrastructure, there is a need to invest on the technology based infrastructure, and focus should be on the on the HR and systems. And HR is we have to train all the human resource to use this technology based solutions as a regular feature, rather than a traditional system, adopting the traditional system. So most of the things we have learned in this phase, and our operations are right now on technology based, and we have successfully organized our remote access based examination we have given to our students. So this is how we are facing these challenges, and we are redefining the strategies of our institute. Sorry, Andy, you are off.
Sorry, my bad. Sorry, my bad. Thank you. The challenges of new technologies. So hearing the words redefining and transformation. So Anjani, I'm going to bring you in now. That your background is in transformation. So what have you seen either personally or kind of as a shift during 2020 and looking towards the future?
Sure. I am the CIO of a pharma company. It's a generic pharma company, and our market's a Western market. So what we have seen is, if you look at pharma manufacturing, it has been completely on-site based. There was no concept of remote working. Even though I have spent most of my time, 14 years in IBM, so of course very used to remotely working. And we have seen the shift. When initially we talked about remotely working, people had nightmares. Then we saw a lot of corporate staff working out of working remotely, and we had zero downtime when it comes to supporting the infrastructure, supporting the factories. And now it has come to where, which a lot of people talked about, is hybrid. Some people are working remotely, some people are. And hybrid is if you ask me, actually hybrid in between was better phase when most of the people were working remotely, the corporate and factory was in factory. Doing the hybrid from the collaboration security perspective is much more challenging. So this is a smaller challenge. The bigger challenge which this COVID has thrown to the pharma industry. Most of you are seeing the news, vaccine is already in the process, medicines are repurposed. The vaccine which you are talking of, like 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, typically takes 8 to 12 years in whole end to end. Now, just all of these is getting done. One is the expedited approval, but two, a lot of them is corners are not getting cut. Basically, using the technology, using the AI, using the smarter way of doing things, people are able to do it faster, and even regulatory agencies are using the technology to get it verified faster. Now, the bigger question which is coming in pharma is, if this can be done for COVID vaccine, why not for other inventions? And two, if it can be done in R&D development, why not in other function? And I would say that has a potential to fundamentally change the way whole pharmaceutical and healthcare industry works. So this is the biggest, I would say, shift which I would see in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Javed, I'm going to come back across to you. So we're talking about these unknown and dynamic times. obviously there's some people are facing uncertainty around their job security. Organizations are facing uncertainty. We've got the potential for tech to speed up the enablement of change and transformation. But how do you juggle that as a leader? What's the actual approach you can take when things aren't defined and are shifting so quickly?
So I think one of the first things for me is actually these sorts of forums. We can't be looking inside to our industry only. We've got to look across the verticals and across the broad spectrum of industries and see what is being done in the marketplace generally and shared learning. So these forums for me are very vital because of that, and that's why we put our time into them. And then see what can be applied, because I think collaboration. I coined a phrase some months ago at another forum where I now call cash is king and collaboration is queen. You've got to be able to use those two things together more smartly than ever before. We've got to reach out. We've got to see how we can do things. In our case, it's with the regulators, with our sovereign functions. And I share my previous colleagues' comments that my fear is actually if the regulators have moved so quickly to adopt technology for approvals, processes, which used to take years, not just months, but years. Now we're talking about days and weeks. Then why would that not become the new norm? And we would be very concerned about it slipping back. I'll give you an example. I do cabin crew training for what you see on board when they come and give you instructions on how to evacuate a flight. That's a 3-day classroom training conventionally. And when I've got 7,000 crew, you can imagine trying to logistically manage that. I can do that now all online. I've got now approvals to do that course online. So huge savings for us from an operational cost base. But I get very nervous that regulators will slip back to saying, oh no, COVID's all done now and you've got to come back and do classrooms. Why? So I think it's keeping the channels of communication open, sharing ideas around what's happening in other industries, and leveraging what's been done in the COVID environment, but pushing forward so that we can drive costs down as a business, which for us means lower fares for our customers who are our guests.
I think that's a great point. Thank you. And Harry, if I could bring you in on this, what the enablement of new approaches to leadership that can actually help organizations improve at such challenging times and help bring their people with them, whether it's through training or anything else. Obviously, that's an area you work in. Have you seen a rapid uptake in technology that can enable that kind of thing, or was it a trajectory that was already happening?
Yeah, I mean, you will hear this word hybrid used by a lot of our panelists, and they're from different contexts. But I think this word will apply in our daily life, right? So today, most employees are working from home. As a company, will you decide your 5-year collaboration strategy that this is the new normal, employees will work from home? The answer is no. So in our point of view, if you take a midterm view of 9 to 12 months, as and when a viable vaccine gets available for the masses, there will be 3 different personalities of workers working from home. Javed mentioned this, right? COVID had some positives, and the positive is the cloud acceleration of 10 years has happened in 6 months' time. Companies have just taken off to cloud like we've never seen in the past, right? So that's here to stay. Employees have now seen the flexibility of working from home, and they know it works. But our best guess, and obviously a lot of those research companies exaggerate that, our best guess is you will have a population that will work from home. You will have a population which will be back in office. We are social animals. James mentioned that. You can't run a relationship virtually forever. People need that social belonging. People need to meet people in person to get stuff done. So you will have a portion of employees working from office, and let's hope travel at some point gets back to where it was. You will have people working on the go. So can you create that seamless, consistent experience which brings these 3 different work styles that we're talking and get them to collaborate? Today, technology can do that, right? So which is what we encourage our customers and partners to start thinking as they look at the long term, that the future, if not anything, will only be hybrid, where you'll have to cater to the distinct taste of these 3 personalities.
Fantastic. So a hybrid future, different approaches for different people and different needs for different teams at different times. Bill, do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think we agree absolutely on that one. So a couple of things just want to highlight. What Harry just mentioned, the acceleration move to the cloud, we also see the same thing. If you look at, for example, our partners, Zoom and Microsoft and so on, you can see that their growth is really tenfolds within a month compared to all their accumulative active users in the past. And so that's absolutely happening. Now, another thing I think Harry also agreed with Harry is the hybrid working itself really to do with two parts. One is what I call the personal space. The other one is the meeting space. In the personal space, what we start to see is that people are recreating this personal space either from home or from anywhere they want to work from. And that personal space, if it happened to be in the past, happened to be in the office, what happens, people start to rethink that, is it really necessary to have individuals still work in the office, but really by themselves, right? So that thinking started to change. So the office is no longer a place for people to go. It's really an outcome or collaborative driven activity happening in that office space. And then all this start to transfer into the meeting space because people still need to socialize, idealization, creating things. That's really happening when people collide together in the room and then they start to figure out things, right? So the idea there is that in the collaborative space and meeting space, we need technology allowed people to collaborate, create virtually as well as physically. So this is new wave of, I think, next generation meeting spaces with very zero touch collaboration, content sharing, very easy to do the whiteboarding, very easy to create a meeting, one touch to start a meeting, etc. All these things started coming to its own. So the new design companies we've been working with to come up with ideas, what's the next generation meeting space look like? So
still enabling that kind of serendipity and allowing the conversations that are beyond the standard tasks of the workplace to happen, because that's where the magic is, right?
Exactly.
So fantastic, thank you. So we have a lot to get through still, but we're going to start bringing in some audience participation now. So if you have questions, please throw them in. I'm going to hand over to Fad to ask the first question, and maybe Philip, if you listen in, we'll get your response first. Thanks.
All right, we've got a question from the audience. Her name is Emma Kerr, and here it goes. With people working from home, how have organizations ensured that all staff have equity, therefore equipment provision at home, Wi-Fi, access to leaders, access to growth?
Okay, that's a very good question. So essentially, as I hear it, is how do employees ensure that essentially they're getting the right level of what they need to be essentially productive and heard in their business? And look, as we know, this is an extremely unprecedented time. So how people have had their home environments set up leading up to this will be completely different to how their environments are going to be looked at moving forward. With the collaboration with their business and with their leadership, again, it's going to come down to communication. You can no longer be quiet in a meeting. As where you were once physically a presence in a meeting, you now need to be a voice in that meeting as well. With the environment that you're actually building for yourself or your home environment, again, having the ability to have a room that you can step out of your normal life, having the ability to set up an environment that's ergonomically friendly for yourself is very important. And one of the things we did find, and one of the things that we are working with some of our employees that really did not have an environment to work with was, how do we give them the space that they need remotely for them to be productive? As we found, internet is probably about one of the biggest things that essentially for anybody to be productive in a modern environment is required. Video conferencing takes a lot of bandwidth. Just being online 24/7 is a big thing, because that connection between yourself, the business, and your leadership is very, very important now. They're probably some of the bigger, grainier elements that are required, but I'd say the big takeaway is, be heard, communicate, and don't fear to put your hand up.
Fantastic, thank you. Some great advice there. And James, would you say in your experience you agree with those being the key areas of focus? I think we have you muted, James.
Sorry about that. I completely agree. I think Phillip made good points. We've equipped all of our teams with the right technology, and we did quite a bit of upgrading of people's homes in terms of what was their internet package and what was the bandwidth, so that they could actively participate in things. And then we've done a whole realm of program, because again, we've all found working from home is a double-edged sword. We all wanted it, but there was a lot of negatives, including the mental health aspect and the turning off aspect. I mean, I've employed 24/7 counselors in 7 languages if people need someone to talk to through the lockdown and through the pandemic. There have been specific groups of employees, especially single employees, living apart from their families, that have struggled with the isolation and with the loneliness factor. And again, we've had to put special attention on those people. So, nobody had a playbook. The previous speaker was talking. Nobody that's alive on this planet has ever gone through anything like this. So, all of the consultants who are giving seminars on how to do the pandemic, they don't really know anything. They don't have any secrets that the rest of us don't have. And you've got to be ready to adapt and change and meet needs as they come about.
Yeah, you're right. It's a great leveler for all of us. So I think we've just had another question come in that I think might be good to grab your perspective while we have you there, James.
Yeah.
Yeah. This comes from Vigneshwaran. It's a pretty interesting question. I'm sure even Mr. Hariharan and Bill Zeng can add value to this. What kind of HR people, what kind of people policies are important to enable an effective hybrid working model?
Okay.
I think the first policy has got to be an HR system that puts the employee first and says this is the most important asset in the company. And if I believe if you take care of your people, the business takes care of itself. Because this is a destabilizing time on so many levels. I mean, my people, all of our people, they're afraid for their parents. They're afraid for elderly members of their family. They can become depressed in a lockdown. They're worried about that. Everyone that I know knows of people who've lost their job or are at 50% pay or worse. And so the amount of reassurance that you need an HR organization that's not policy police and not going around checking everything, but this is a time for kindness and gentleness and taking care of your people. I mean, even on the salary thing, we had rumors everywhere. I had a public meeting with all my people and I said, let me be clear, we don't cut salaries. And if we do cut salaries, we start with cutting mine by 100%. And then we cut the leadership team, the department heads by 100%. I'm not going to cut the lower level people in the organization who really need these salaries to survive and to support extended families. And that helps reassure people that there's clear principles in place on how we're going to make decisions, because nobody knows how long this was going to go. Nobody still knows how long it's going to go. We don't have a proven vaccine in the world. There's talk there is, but 76 people. I mean, even the president of Russia only tested it on one of his daughters. I mean, he didn't do both. I mean, let's be clear. So we're still a ways from getting clear of this, and we don't know how it's going to play out. So I think it's conservatism and good principles.
Fantastic, thank you. I know we're running out of time very quickly. I want to make sure we get final closing remarks from everyone. But Fahd, I think there is one other question. Maybe we could take that and direct it to Hari there, because I think he has something to add.
All right, we'll take this last question. I mean, the questions are flooding in, so I'd really appreciate that the panelists, they engage on the platform with the attendees. There are some interesting questions, but I will take this one from Dia Yasmina. Here it goes. Employees work at home while taking care of babies and small children. Some have difficulty in juggling between typing emails and cooking lunches. Okay, what should a supervisor do to ensure that employees they have done quite a good job. So she's referring to the KPIs. Some jobs takes longer time to be done, and some people are stressful thinking that they are not done. I guess, of course, the panel, they're expert in answering this. Please go ahead.
Look, I think it's also about, it's fair to have a conversation and set the expectations with the manager. And that's where it comes to how do you divide your personal time and office hours? I mean, these are sensitive issues, right? And it can't be one answer that will completely address. We've gone to the extent of finding certified daycare units where some of the working mothers can tap into. When things were normal, we had a creche in our own office, right? It took care of 300 children, which means you show up in the morning, you leave the child, and there were breastfeeding mothers, so you have time to go and see your child at regular intervals. And when you're going back home, the child goes back with you. Now, unfortunately, with COVID, everybody's stuck at home. So this is all about setting that expectation with the manager, and this is where empathy comes into play. I think beyond all this, a lot of companies will rewrite the culture. Work from home is a very different beast. There has to be trust. There has to be empowerment. There cannot be policing. Don't measure the number of hours you've invested in work, measure productivity, measure outcome. And do you have tools to measure outcome? Easier said than done. Do you have tools to measure productivity? So these are some of the things that companies should absolutely look at.
So a change in focus. I think that's a really important point. So what I want to do, we're running out of time very quickly. We will try and find a way to get to the questions separately outside of the panel. I'm going to come around you one by one now to just get your closing thoughts. So Anjani, I can see you have something to say anyway. I'd like it if you could respond and also just add your one key piece of advice you'd give to any leader looking at the future of work from 2020 onwards. So I'll hand that to you, and then we'll come around one by one to get the same from everyone else.
Hey, thanks, Andy. So as James said, that first thing we should be, HR should be doing is sensitive to the employee and caring. I think it is true for all the supervisors. So most of us have done extra work, and sometimes even we have been late to the office. So when you are seeing that kind of thing employee is struggling with, as a supervisor, it's our duty to rebalance with other employees, especially who has worked really well before pandemic, and rebalance, give him or her some breather room and take care of that, bring that human angle. And this is the time actually for that. That was, I just wanted to add on what Hariharan said. Right.
Fantastic. I think we could take that as advice for leaders as well. We're running frantically out of time, so I want to grab that nugget of insight. Thank you, and we'll come to you, Zia. If you could just share your one key piece of advice very quickly for leaders.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy. In my opinion, HR is the real force behind the success of any organization. And now this is the tough time. The organizations have no business, and everybody is thinking about the downsizing and right sizing. Here, I think the role of leadership to go for some innovation, to find out the new streams of revenue generation, rather than going for such downsizing and right sizing. This HR is your asset, and we have trained this HR over a period of time. So in my opinion, this is the time where we have to retain that talent in our organization and find out the new avenues and going for the new innovations to make our organization sustainable.
Perfect. Fantastic. Thank you. So keep looking forward. Okay, we're painfully running out of time. So Phillip, one soundbite really quickly from you.
Keep watching Netflix.
Great
Aside from that,
advice,
guys, just keep in mind that what you're going through is also what your leadership and your management's going through. These are unprecedented times for them as well. Take care of yourself. Take care of your staff. Think very empathetic about what it is in your decisions you make in relation to the loads you put on your staff, but also at the same time, take a moment for yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you. And James, same to you. One soundbite.
Can't over communicate in this situation.
Fantastic. Nice and succinct. Thank you. Javed, final thought from you?
Just trust, family, and fun. Really, they're the 3 words of success now.
Lovely. Trust, family, and fun. I love that. Bill, and from you, please.
Create the best working environment for everyone in any flexible working environment.
Thought from you, Harry, please.
Trust, empathy, and do more on mental health.
Amazing. So that was awesome. You guys were so succinct at the end there. I think we're finishing on time. Thank you so much. We could have gone an extra 30 minutes at least on this. We're just getting started. Saad, I will hand over to you, and thank you to the panelists. You've all been amazing. Thank you.